Hey everyone, this is Nikachu, Merfolk Master, here to show you the ways of modern Merfolk. And if you love Merfolk, you're in the right place, so don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. But before we get into our match, we're going to thank our sponsor, themanabase.com. And if you want to check out the new video series for Competitive Commander, you go check out the Meta Workers Snap Keep by James LePage on themanabase.com. Your home base for everything Magic the Gathering. So we have here a replay of round 4 because I have 2 monitors and I accidentally recorded the wrong one. So let's go into it. We won the die roll, and this hand is pretty good. You know, we've got a nice curve, Tide Shaper into Lord of Atlantis, or at least Tide Shaper into Spreading Seas and Spreading Seas. I do like double Spreading Seas hands because they can annihilate so many decks. I mean, even if you're playing a solid monocolor deck, if you have only 2 lands in play, then you just can't play any spells. So 1 Spreading Seas, annoying. 2 Spreading Seas significantly increases the chances of crippling your opponent. And we will just start off. I believe our opponent didn't do anything. Okay, they kept 7. So we'll start off with the Tide Shaper Mystic, which so far has been proving useful. A lot more useful than Curse Catcher would have been. We keep drawing lands, but it's not that big of a deal. We have 2 cantrips going for us. And my general rule with cracking fetch lands in the tropical Merfolk deck is don't take damage if you don't have to. And with that being said, I seem to have broken that rule because I should have led off with Cavern of Souls. Unless I was anticipating just trying to thin my deck a little bit for the cantrip. But actually, I think I would prefer to play the Cavern of Souls here. The life matters so much. If I play Spreading Seas and I draw another land, let's say an island, then that's 1 less damage that I would have maybe taken. Like, what I'm trying to say is if I keep drawing lands from here on out, I just took 1 damage for nothing. And that actually can mean the difference between winning and losing the game. So don't take damage if you don't have to. Our opponent plays Plains and Pass, so I pretty strongly feel that I'm up against something like Death and Taxes, which is good because they have mana hungry requirements like Flicker Wisp, which needs double white. They do play a lot of colorless land like Tectonic Edge, Ghost Quarter, Mutavault, so they are a little mana sensitive. It's like a 2-color deck in one. So I would not feel bad if I'm up against Death and Taxes. It's a bit awkward though to have so many like Spreading Seas effects. But our opponent plays Unclaimed Territory, names humans, so we're actually up against humans here. And plays Meddling Mage. And when my opponent played Meddling Mage, I felt sort of annoyed because the default for Meddling Mage is usually Lord of Atlantis. It's just the iconic card of Merfolk. I don't know, sometimes rarely people name Master of the Pearl Trident, but usually they just auto-name Lord of Atlantis. And Lord of Atlantis is pretty good on this board, given I've already got the Spreading Seas. I have Island Walk enabled, so Lord of Atlantis would be pretty strong. Fortunately, my opponent names Merfolk, certainly a strong card as well. And maybe they chose it because I chose to spend my turn 2 on Spreading Seas. But anyway, I was pretty happy to see the Merfolk. I don't know if that's the correct name. I don't know what it's like from the human side to play against Merfolk, but I do think that I at least win most of my games against humans because of Island Walk, and I probably would have named one of the Island Walk lords. We draw Ether Vial. It's just terrible. We're not in a position to use this Ether Vial. But we are in a position to still try to mana screw our opponent. So I play the Spreading Seas on the Unclaimed Territory. Now, I mean, they're pretty functional off of 1 white mana, 1 plains. They can still play Thalia, Thalia's Lieutenant, Thalia, Heretic Cathar. They can still play... I'm trying to mostly take them off of Mantis Rider mana, which requires a white and a red. But at the same time, like I said earlier, there's going to be games where they only have 2 lands and you just completely shut them out of the game. So pretty disappointed to see the Spell Pierce, but it's not a big deal. I'm not holding up mana for this. I'm going to get my Tideshaper Mystic in play and see if we can get more damage going. Not that it would matter anyway. I mean, if I really needed, well, no, I guess it doesn't. It does matter. I can't use Tideshaper Mystic on my opponent's turn to turn my Cavern of Souls into an island. So my opponent keeps rolling out, these 5-color lands. And plays Thalia's Lieutenant, which makes me happy. Our opponent isn't really in a position to do anything. It's not a strong start. They're hitting us for 3, but we're going to hit them back for 4. And we also are going to get Aether Vial online. But what I wanted to say is that if our opponent ever tries to play something like a Reflector Mage on our Lord of Atlantis, over the next few turns we would get Aether Vial online, and we would be able to keep replaying that Lord of Atlantis despite the fact that our opponent would play Reflector Mage. But hold everything! We just drew Collected Company, the namesake card of the deck, so to hell with the Lord of Atlantis plan. Let's just dump our hand on the board. And you never know when your opponent is going to play just a normal Thalia. So if they do, then Collected Company would end up costing us 5, and we don't even have 5 mana right now. So let's play the Collected Company right now. We get the choice of 2 Master of the Pearl Tridents and a Silvergill Adept. Let's just take the Master of the Pearl Tridents, put a ton of power on the board, threaten to win the game next turn. I mean, in a big way, too. Even if, well, I mean, I guess if they tap out for Reflector Mage and bounce one of the Master of the Pearl Tridents, we're just going to play Lord of Atlantis, attack for 9 anyway, have a really strong hand. So our opponent plays Stomping Grounds, which actually is a sign that they're not playing a normal humans deck. They're actually playing their own Collected Company. So this is the Company Humans deck, getting more and more popular right now. Not sure why it is getting more popular, because it didn't have I don't think it had a great showing at the Pro Tour. And I also don't think that Collected Company really had much results after that. Like, I believe it was the Vile version of Humans that really pulled its weight in the Grand Prix that followed the Pro Tour. But here we are, Collected Company, and I saw in the latest SCG Open weekend that more people are playing Collected Company, so there's probably something about this card that makes it well positioned. Keep in mind, if our last turn, if we didn't draw Collected Company, we probably would have played Lord of Atlantis, Aether Vial, attack for 4, and we would have had Spell Pierce up for this Collected Company. So Spell Pierce, normally not so great against humans, gains a lot of value if our opponent is playing with Collected Company. So it won't be completely dead in game 1. Whereas against the Vile version, it's pretty dead. It's also good to keep in mind that against the Collected Company version of the deck, I think our Harbingers are going to be much stronger, because your opponent can't just easily replay bounced creatures with their Aether Vial. So our opponent gets in for a good attack. I mean, it's worthless. And there's that Thalia, so it's very good. It's very good that we got that Collected Company going when we had the opportunity to. Otherwise, right now it'd be too late. So we draw a Mutavault, but it actually doesn't matter. So we're just going to we're going to play Lord of Atlantis. We didn't need to, but you know what? Style points. Attack you for 16. Overkill. And they're dead. Alright, so that's game 1. Let's go on to game 2. So our hand is a bit clunky, but it's not something I want to throw away. We don't have a ton of things to do on the draw. Oh, by the way, I believe that I sided out 3 Spell Pierces for 2 Tidebinder Mages and 1 Kira Great Glass Spinner to protect us from Reflector Mage and potential Dismembers. I'm not exactly 100% sure what the Collected Company Humans deck plays. So they start off with Noble Hierarch, which is unfortunate. That's a fast start. We have a slow start. We're going to start off with Flooded Strand. And our opponent placed turn 2 Mantis Rider. Great start for our opponent, really fast. But we've got them Tidebinder Mage, and that's the main reason why I'm bringing in Tidebinder Mage. Actually, the reason I bring in Tidebinder Mage is for exactly what we see on the board. Noble Hierarch and Mantis Rider. Tidebinder Mage on the play can sometimes win games just by itself against humans because they have to keep some sketchy hands with like one land, Noble Hierarch, and then try to go from there. And if you tap that thing down, then it's just over. And this thing is just such a pain to deal with. And it's just nice to have so many more resources at least to be able to deal with it. So I meant to fetch at end of turn and get a breeding pool into play tapped. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. That's not that big of a deal. We have hardly any. I mean, we have one green creature in our hand, and it's like I am not casting that thing. Not even close. We have to spend our mana every single turn doing high impact stuff because our opponent's like so far in front. So I go to tap down the Mantis Rider. Let's try to slow the game down here. And my opponent plays a Reflector Mage. How annoying. So we'll bounce Tidebinder Mage. Not too big of a deal. We're not so far behind yet that we're going to lose. We can still use Harbinger of the Tides, bounce the Mantis Rider, and if our opponent wants to attack that Mantis Rider, they're probably going to be spending all their mana on their turn to do it. So I still felt pretty confident we could get back into this game, especially if we could draw some lands, which we don't. But anyway, we're going to Harbinger of the Tides, the Mantis Rider, back to our opponent's hand. And predictably so, my opponent replays the Mantis Rider. There it is. But unfortunately, they had more mana in their hand. And they decided to go for a Phantasmal Image, copy Mantis Rider, and hit us for 8. So now we're in desperation mode. That was a lot more damage than I was expecting. A lot more damage than I was expecting. And we're at 6 life. And we have to go for some... Like, if I play Mirror Rager, it doesn't do anything. I just die in the air to the Mantis Riders. So I have to tap down one of the Mantis Riders. And I remember, I made a mistake here. I went to kill this Mantis Rider, but I don't think it was accurate. Because I don't have any good way to deal with the other Mantis Rider. Like, I only have 2 Tidebinder Mages in this deck. So I have one more Tidebinder Mage left in my deck to deal with the second Mantis Rider. I mean, they're going to hit me for 3, and I have to deal with it the very next turn. So I tell you what I should have done. I should have tapped this Tidebinder... Sorry, I should use Tidebinder Mage to tap down this Mantis Rider. And I had 1 Tidebinder Mage and 4 Merfolk Trickster to deal with the Phantasmal Image Mantis Rider. Because all Merfolk Trickster has to do is target the Phantasmal Image, and then poof! It's gone. So that's what I should have done. That would give me more chances of winning the game. Right now I'm in a situation like I don't even know how I'm going to win this game. How am I going to win this game? I'm going to get hit at least for 3. I can't do anything about that. There's Thigh's Lieutenant. Now I'm going to get hit for at least more. They dismembered something, and now I'm still technically alive. I'm going to block the Reflector Mage, go down to 1. But like, what can I do? What can I do? Yeah, that's not going to do it. So I believe, I'm not super familiar with the 5-color deck. So far I've seen, or sorry, not the 5-color deck, but the Collected Company version. So I'm going to play it out to see what they have. So good to know that they still use Dismember just like the normal Humans deck. But they don't show me anything special, and I just lose this game. Okay, and let's go on to round 3. So we have just a great hand, great curve. We can start off with Tideshaper Mystic, into Merfolk Branchwalker, into Master of the Pearl Trident. I can see a lot of damage being dealt with this hand just as is. And on top of that, we've got like 4 turns to draw another land to get Collected Company online. It's so good. This is like just ideal. So we get our Tide Shaper Mystic in play. Opponent gets their Absence Pilgrim in play. It's too bad we couldn't draw a Tidebinder there. Or even Merfolk Trickster. I would have loved that. I'm not entirely sure, but I feel like it would shut down our opponent pretty well. Pretty important to note, our opponent is not set up to play a Mantis Rider next turn, so they can't have as an explosive hand as last time. The best they can do is play something like Reflector Mage, which is not bad, to be honest. Nothing wrong with Reflector Mage for turn 2 play. And I played Master of the Pearl Trident, and I don't know why. I can't remember the reasoning behind this. Oh, sorry. I do remember the reasoning behind this. And I should have played the Master of the Pearl Trident pre-combat. And now what happened was, because I drew Tide Shaper Mystic, if I play Merfolk Branchwalker this turn, because of this Mutavault, I can't play Master of the Pearl Trident and Tide Shaper Mystic on my 3rd turn. It's impossible. I can't do it. It requires too many blue sources. So I realized this after I attacked, and so I have to play Master of the Pearl Trident because now I can empty my hand by playing Merfolk Branchwalker with the Botanical Sanctum and a Mutavault, and I can play the Tide Shaper Mystic with the Island, and I can fully, completely curve out instead of wasting my mana. Champion of the Parish hits the board. That was Lieutenant. We're just in very good shape here, in my opinion. And certainly the way I'm curving out is going to take a turn off from our opponent taking damage. But it's fine. We draw another Master of the Pearl Trident, which is going to come in handy. Like, we are just so far ahead here. And we do draw our last land so that we can get Collected Company online. Get the Tide Shaper Mystic and pass. Opponent plays Noble Hierarch. Champion of the Parish and Thalia's Lieutenant get some triggers. And they don't do anything else, so it's very concerning. I feel like my opponent, with 4 cards in hand, feels like they're representing Dismember. Because how do you have this much mana you're not doing anything? Given this is sort of a donut land, I mean, it's hard to cast stuff off of this, but they have the white mana here. So I'm pretty suspicious about a potential Dismember here. And I decide to play around Dismember, because I didn't see a way that I could attack for a meaningful... Even if I play, like, say, Lord of Atlantis, fetch, activate Mutavault, and I have to tap one of these Tide Shaper Mystics to get Island Walk. If I don't attack with any of the Lords, I'm only attacking for 4/7. So that's not lethal. It's not even close. Therefore, and then if one of them dies, my opponent will go down to 10, and then they'll take 5. Which, I mean, it's a good line too. It's a good line too, but like, why do I need to get in damage right now? Especially since I can't prevent Dismember at all. It doesn't. I would love to, at my draw step, turn like Stomping Grounds into, like, let's say my opponent was playing with Lightning Bolt. I could, at my draw step, use Tide Shaper Mystic, turn the Stomping Grounds into an island. That means if they want to use their Lightning Bolt, which they don't play, but let's say they did, then they would have to use it on our draw step. And then if they try to float they can't float the mana into our main phase. So if they want to use the removal spell, they have to do it at the draw step, and then we would be free to play our Lord of Atlantis. But anyway, it doesn't affect Dismember, is what I'm saying, because Dismember can use any mana. So I decide to pass, and we're going to play a Collected Company, and I'm just going to go for one big win. But then, boom! Boom! This was so surprising. I mean, this was totally out of left field. My opponent plays Warship If you control a creature, damage that would reduce your life total less than 1 reduces it to 1 instead. I looked at all the humans lists after this. No one's playing Worship. This guy decided to play Worship. Now we have 3 Echoing Truths in the sideboard. I believe 3. Didn't really think about bringing them in, because I did not think that this card existed in this archetype. Boy, was I wrong. I guess if I were to do it all over again, I guess I could replace the Branch Walkers with some... I guess I could replace some of the Branch Walkers for Echoing Truth. But as of right now, I would not play around this card, really. I mean, Echoing Truth is still a good card to bring in against an archetype like humans. But this is their own thing in this matchup. And I mean, I have no idea why this would be bad. Seems like a fine card to me, but this is the first I encountered it, and I have not seen any published lists with Worship. Not to say that there aren't out there, I just didn't see them. So I totally didn't forget it. And we are totally cold to this card. We have no damn chance of winning this game. And I very sadly play Collected Company. We have nothing in our deck. Get my island. I decide to play our Collected Company anyway. Look at that! Look at that beautiful Collected Company. Look at all that stuff. Oh, I think no, we are dead because I have only 3 Harbinger of the Tides in the deck, and yeah, I only have 3 Harbinger of the Tides in the deck, so I can only bounce like 3 creatures. I can only get 3 creatures off the board. That's the best I can do, in theory. And I decide to resign. Whoops! Whoops! Hey! How was I supposed to know? How was I supposed to know? This is a stupid card. Why do they make these cards? These are terrible cards. Worship, Ensnaring Bridge. Blood Moon. Jeez. Just super hardcore feel bad cards. But that is our 4th... Aside from... You know what? If they didn't have this, we were going to steamroll them. But aside from that, we're going to thank all my patrons supporting me on Patreon, and we're also going to thank our sponsor, themanabase.com. This has been Nikachu, playing Tropical Merfolk in Modern.